G'day guys, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be going over some of the few things I wish I knew before I started playing Warframe back when it came out, which is kind of impossible the more you think about it, because these are things that us as a community as well as D has revealed to us throughout nearly 10 years now. So with all that in mind, I hope I can help some new players find their way into Warframe. But don't forget to like if you enjoy the content and follow if you want more. I'll leave a link to my Twitch down below, where I play Warframe every Wednesday and Sunday, and Outriders every Friday and Wednesday. But without further ado, let's get into the video. First thing I'd like you to think about is, just even when it comes to your opening frame, you need to think about what type of role you want to play within the team, or if you're even going to be soloing, because certain frames fit into certain roles. Almost every frame has a unique characteristic that allows it to do certain things better than others. Meaning, like, say you want to choose someone who is great for killing entire rooms. Yeah, follow the meta, that's what the meta revolves around. But at the same time, if you want to have fun and more so play the game and not use it as a loot and high damage number simulator, pick something that you will enjoy and you will have way more fun than all these people chasing the perfect numbers. The next thing I would like to go over is something where there is a few exceptions to the rules, but almost every gun in the game and weapon can be modded correctly to be able to pass any mission without going into the Seal Path and Archons. So even right up to your sorties, you should be able to use almost anything to succeed. There might just be a mid to high difficulty level if you are not considering things such as elemental types and damage types, and how different elements affect different characters and things within the game. But of course, these are all things you can research and find out at a later date. And without further ado, the next thing is, just because someone is the lowest mastery in the team does not necessarily make them the lowest skilled. Although there is rules of thumb as there are with most things, anyone below Mastery 5 I would still consider to be new to the game, because they have not tried enough things within the game to increase their level. Once you get to that, anyone who is once you hit double digits, you're proficient enough in the game to do any mission, and you could still be the strongest and best player in the team, and you just found your build early. So never judge someone on the mastery level itself. That being said, always try to aim for an end game position of at least a mastery of 18, because that will allow you access to every mod, weapon and story attribute within the game that is mastery locked. For those who don't know, you increase mastery by leveling up different pieces of gear: 300 for a Warframe or companion, and 100 points per level for a weapon. So weapons can get you 3,000, Warframes can get you 6,000, and a Warframe with an exalted weapon is capable of yielding you 9,000 mastery XP. Keep that in mind. Each weapon counts once unless it has a different variant. The next thing we're going to go over is, before we get into actual gameplay mechanics and things like this that I wish I knew, is just there's a lot to do in Warframe. So it essentially shows itself as a third-person looter shooter, which is one of my favorite game topics. It's the two genres that I actually stream regularly. But on top of that, it has fishing, open world, mining, and a lot of other aspects that you can even go hunting for wildlife on the open worlds. So there would be something you can enjoy if you can get to it, but if you have other games to fulfill these niches that are more targeted, of course play them. But if you want an all-rounder, there's definitely something within Warframe that you'll definitely enjoy, and I couldn't suggest giving it a shot. A couple days of playing more. It is one of my favorite games, and I still play it 10 years later, so That's got to give it some credit, right? Now, getting into some more helpful tips along the lines is learning all the different status effects in the game. So you have your 3 primary status effects, which is your slash, which is for damage over time bleed proc, impact, which will break armor, and then puncture, that will pierce armor. You then have your 3 elemental types, which is cold, which will freeze enemies, holding them in place, much like in any other games as a stasis ability. Electric, which will deal a bonus damage to shields or your blue armored energy, while also hitting a couple times over a short period. Heat, which is a burn and another dot, and actually, if I remember, increases the amount of damage that a target can take. And toxic or poison, which is a damage over time poisoning effect that deals large amounts of damage over time. But within that, we can also then fuse the basic elements to then go into magnetic, blast, viral, radiation, corrosive, and gas, which all then go into further benefits, where your magnetic is shield stripping, your blast has a knockback, your viral is dot and a total health debuff, your radiation is high damage and will make your enemy start fighting the nearest thing, not the nearest enemy, enemies included, and deal damage. Corrosive, which is a massive armor debuff, and gas, which will leave clouds that will deal dot type damage to enemies. Now, within that topic, you also got to remember that damage types are also broken into crit or stat within Warframe. So if you are building a crit weapon, don't focus so much on your status abilities. You can tell whether a weapon's going to be crit or stat by default just by looking at what your crit chance and stat chance are. Typically, if you've got around 25 to 30, you're going to be able to hit them at least 100% fully modded, which then allows you to build the weapon for that archetype, either crit or stat. And if you are building for crit, you also want to build up your crit multiplier, so every bullet deals additional damage. Now, I know this goes without saying, but always keep in mind that the power that you see on streams and all these videos that everyone makes on YouTube, these are people that have been playing for a significant amount of time, and you will not be able to replicate this right away without throwing a large amount of money into the game. So enjoy the ride and don't push yourself just because everyone else can. Now, this next tip, it may seem kind of obvious or may not, because a lot of people haven't done it, but within your codex, which is found across from your markers, you market in your orbiter, you will have a codex. You can also access it through your menu. In here, it has tutorials to teach you certain aspects in the game. Well, a lot of these are very basic. If you are struggling, you could probably find something in there to help you directly. And it also has an advanced movement tutorial that I heavily suggest you completing, because it will teach you some of the better movement tips like bullet jumping and how to use them more efficiently and how to combo your movements together to create more fluid movement. The next tip I'm going to cover is it's kind of strange to think about, but the primes or upgraded variants of weapons in Warframes can occasionally be easier to grind out than the actual characters themselves. So, for example, not the best example, but when a character becomes unvaulted, especially within Prime Resurgence or Scheduled Revolting, the relics are easier to obtain, and then you're just working on basic RNG instead of having to, on a standard mission, instead of having to do bonus elements or complete quests to get the Prime itself. You'll be able, standard frame, you'll be able to just complete standard gameplay, grind out your resources, and get the higher level version of the weapon or frame through that time. Build times are very similar. Of course, everything in this game, you can either buy it or you can grind it. It takes time or money. A free account will take years to create, where someone can throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at the game and get the same results. But what I will say is it is definitely worthwhile grinding a lot of the things out yourself, and it is a very enjoyable game when you do so. That being said, the premium currency that you do have to pay for within this game, or platinum, is something that you can also obtain within the game without actually spending real life currency. As I was mentioning, you can grind out prime gear and weapons and frames, and then you can go to a relay or even your dojo if you have one and trade for premium currency. There is also an open trade chat where you can find prices, and a website called warframemarket.com where you can even look up prices of certain objects. This sees sales mostly mods, primes, and other endgame content, but you will get your hands on lots of them, and sometimes even when Barrow-Katir shows up, which will appear in your messages, you can get rid of large amounts of junk pieces for an average of 5 to 12 plat, depending on quality. So there's always a way to make some premium currency if you're hunting for it, or just want to skip out a grind at any point. Now, we've all seen the runs that a lot of high-end YouTubers makes and the builds where they're able to do millions upon millions of damage and take out these high, over-the-top level enemies. Now, I will also tell you that it's an overall fruitless activity. Like, yes, if you're doing Steel Path, you get double rewards for enemies that are massively stupidly stronger than the standard targets, but at the same time, at the beginning stages, you're better off learning to run for a set being, if it's an endless mission, you do 5 rewards and you get out, because your reward tier will then reset back to its initial reward tier, and you're getting the same reward for, let's say, a 5-minute survival is what you get for your 30-minute survival. So at that point it becomes redundant, and although you are getting more XP and more kills, it can be more worthwhile to jump out, reset enemy levels back to that lower point, especially if you're grinding for certain resources or just doing XP for a build you are working on. That can be a lot more efficient and a lot more user friendly than trying to do 1 to 2 to 3 hour missions, and typically will take half an hour to complete a full set. Just a tip, I use it regularly. I do non-endurance runs for most of my trains, as you would have seen on Twitch by now. Now, there are a lot of quests to complete within these games. Some of them are within this game, and some of them are mainline story quests, which you will be kind of forced into doing to progress through the storyline. But that being said, even a lot of the side quests can give you good rewards, such as Octavia and Limbo, some of the more iconic frames that you will find a lot of people either love or hate within the community. Now, the other major system I suggest you putting a lot of knowledge into learning is the modding system itself. Making sure your mods are leveled up and that you have the optimal mods doing what you want them doing will make any build more easy, more fluent, more damage dealing, whatever you're trying to do it. I'm sure there's a mod to help you. So even if you need to ask a more experienced player, or even just Google if there is a mod for what you are looking to do, and I'm almost certain you will find one. Our second to last tip for this video will be pick a character and learn it. Read them before you get them and grind them. Look into their abilities. Think about what you actually would do with the character and if you're going to use it. Although the game strives for you to complete every character eventually, some you will enjoy more than others, and as you learn those characters you can make flowy builds and eventually use the helmet to even alter them to make them more towards your playstyle. And the last tip I'm going to leave you with is, come on guys, it's a game, let's all have fun, do our best, and not freaking cause the toxicity that most of this gaming world is causing into. Give us 10 likes and I'll give you a part 2 with some more tips, with more advanced tricks and tips, and more based around actual mechanics within the game. Thank you for listening. Feel free to go to follow, like, all the usual, and head over to my Twitch and give us a follow over there. Thank you. This is Red Coat out. Bye.